About AMS ads. Just want to make sure our AV live stream is live. We are live.
We're live.
Brian Meeks.
Well, thank you, everyone. I got to tell you, I don't know how many people here are pretty geeked up, but I'm pretty confident I enjoyed that last presentation more than all of you combined. Some people like drink. Some people love it when the Victoria's Secrets catalog arrives. Me, data is so wonderful. Before we get started, though, I kind of want to do a selfie if that's all right. I just feel like this is so cool. And so let's do that. Oh, no, this is good. Okay, everybody smile. Oh, awesome. Okay. Oh, okay. He's going to get a better one of me. We might not actually get to anything, but yeah, I'm fine. It's my time. Oh, gee whiz. This may have been a bad idea. That's me. Awesome.
We're supposed to start at 1:30, and I started your early, man, so I'm in trouble. Is your mic on?
Well played, sir. Well played indeed. Okay, well, mastering Amazon ads, or making Amazon ads easier. This is something that through my group, I hear the same questions over and over, and that's not a bad thing. It's given me a sense for where new folks to this, for lack of a better word, sport, struggle. It is very competitive. It changes all the time. The better that you get at understanding the components of Amazon ads, the less frustrating it is when things change. And so today I sort of want to address the issues that some of you may be having. This is not a comprehensive Amazon ads course by any means. That would take all day, although if Craig had let me, I would talk for 8 hours. But hopefully you can get some value out of this and maybe not be as intimidated or have trepidation about trying them and get a feel for where you can go from here. So it's what you don't know that is often the issue. The top 3 concerns I have for people, the first one, keyword analysis. Now, a lot of people that do Amazon ads maybe come from trying out Facebook ads first. They're 2 different beasts. The type of analysis that one does to understand if their Facebook ad is working is different from AMS. And if you spend time trying to do it the same way, you're wasting a lot of time. And that's where I see so many posts. Should you focus your energy on poring over your keywords? I don't believe you should. I don't look at my keywords. Once I hit run the ad, I never look at them again. And there's a simple reason. Not to go too much into the M word, math, and so forth, but there's a term, statistical variance, and that's important. And since none of you ran out screaming when he was talking about data, for Alex, I'm going to just touch on statistical variance. It simply means if you have a coin and you flip it and it's heads, you can flip it again and you're not guaranteed you're going to get tails. So if you know what your book's description is and you know that it converts at 1 in 10, meaning every 10 clicks you get 1 conversion, which is not just a sale. For those that are exclusive, it's a sale or a KU download. And that's hugely important to understand. We'll come back to why sales are less important than you think in that conversation. It's conversions. It's getting a new reader. You run an ad, you want a new reader. We'd love it if they would buy because in most people's cases, we make more money from the purchase, but we'd rather they do KU download than go away. And so you see people who look at their keywords and they have a keyword and the keyword has 12 clicks. and the AMS report says 0 sales. There's many reasons why you don't kill that keyword. One is sales are not all the possible conversions, and there's no representation for if you had 2 people on KU that downloaded your book. So keep that in mind when you're looking at this stuff. The second thing is maybe you had 2 sales. Maybe they're not going to show up on that report for 14 days. ACOS and the estimated sales on AMS is the devil. This is important. If you're going to read those, you will likely gain weight, your children will stop loving you, and you may curse generations to come. Just don't even look at it. Now, the next question people always ask is, well, then how do I tell if I've gotten, if the ad is working? And that's reasonable. And you may, if you're somebody that has a lot of organic sales, if it's a person out here doing $20,000 a month and they've never run an ad, their analysis is going to be a bit more complex. I'm not going to go into that today because people would run from the room screaming. But just send me a Facebook message and we'll do it together. Yeah, I'm good at this stuff. But if you're fairly new and you don't have a lot of sales, and a book that gets a sale every 7 or 12 days, you run an ad and all of a sudden you're starting to get 2 sales a day, you may not be able to prove it was the ad, but analysis on this stuff is pass-fail. If you're reasonably sure, that's good enough. And so going back to the keywords, if you've got 12 clicks, 20 clicks, 40 clicks on a description that you know converts at 1 in 10, you should have 4 conversions. Maybe you do. But here's the thing about statistical variance. And I know we've talked about this. You can go 0 for 40 with a 1 in 10 average. That's the math of it. Just like you can go 3 tails in a row, the math of that is a 1 in 8 chance of going 3 tails in a row. The story that I've told frequently on the other side is when things go really well. I had an ad with 5 clicks and 5 sales. And the thing about AMS is I haven't seen too many instances where if they report a sale, it's wrong. So if you see a sale on there, you can probably trust it. But if you don't see any sales on there, that's no reason to panic is my point there. In this story, though, I had 5 clicks and 5 sales on a description at the time before I had gotten into copywriting, converted at 1 in 30. We're in Las Vegas. Let's talk about odds against going 5 in a row on a 30-to-1 proposition bet against. 2.5 million to 1. So that's happened to me. I have not run 2.5 million ads. I've run many thousands, but that's not going to happen again in my lifetime. The point is, whether it's an ad or a keyword, there's going to be a string where you get 3 for 3. There's going to be a string where you go 0 for 40. And the interest in panicking early, authors love to panic. There aren't many things. You enjoy panicking, don't you? This woman in the orange, she likes to panic. It's so natural when you're new to something that you're worried about it. And you can trust me, it's not quite the same thing as doing AMS ads and understanding that it's going to take 6 months to really get a feel for it, to get comfortable. And once you're there, over that time, you're going to have developed some skill sets with regards to your copywriting, your descriptions, and you'll be less stressed. For now, maybe we can tamper the stress down a little, but my point is, if you were to analyze keywords, go ahead as long as the keyword has 1,000 clicks on it. In the time that I've been doing this, I've seen one person's ad, which had something like 12 million impressions, and he had a keyword with over 1,000 clicks. I've looked at a lot of ads. That's the only keyword you can analyze. And so it's a ton of time people spend, and that's what I'm trying to get you to avoid. Now, can you do things like, okay, I have keywords, 1,000 keywords across 5 different lists, so 5,000, take the top 20% with regard to impressions, put them in a hybrid list and test that to see if it works? Absolutely. That's probably a good idea. But that's one Excel sort or 5 Excel sorts, and then you move on. Trying to kill the keywords that, air quote, don't work. All you're doing is guessing. You don't have the data to make that decision. So if you can all remember that, that would be lovely. So are you going to remember that? She is. See? Less panic. Okay. So let's talk about good ad copy. Good ad copy is something I have completely become obsessed with. I hated writing descriptions with a white-hot passion. This is something that I've told this story, many of you have heard this. I had a fiction novel that the ISBN information was filled out. All of the cells in KDP were filled out. The art was up. The book was edited. The book was uploaded. One spot, the description lay empty. And every day for 60 days, I woke up thinking I was going to write that description and launch my book. Now, I don't do things for my launches. I don't care because I just pretty much, I hit the button and then I tell or don't tell my list about it. I'm the worst launcher at the convention by far. But I know I can sell the book with Amazon ads, so I just, I don't care. This one, though, after 60 days, the book was done, and I just, come on. So I wrote a description, a horrifically bad description that the people in Geneva has said was a war crime. It was, this was a bad description. But I didn't care. I hit publish, and I started advertising, I sold the books, but the conversion was worse than normal. Most of, at this point, because I keep lots of data, the conversion was 1 in 35 or 37, and all my other books were 1 in 30. And at that point, oh, that's ridiculous. I know copywriting exists. I see billboards and commercials every day. I used to work at Geico, where a 15-minute call could save you 15% on your auto insurance. Has anybody heard that? A few people have mentioned that. Copy works. So I sent an email to Sean Platt, the Self-Publishing Podcast. In his former life, he was a world-class copywriter. He's really good at it. And so I said, Sean, can you help me out? I need a book. Can you recommend a book on copywriting? And he recommended, and this isn't in my slides, but write this down, Adweek by Sugarman. Well, ironically, the title's Adweek. Then there's like 400,000 words in the subtitle. It is the worst copywriting I've seen in my life for a subtitle. Nevertheless, the book is fantastic. It's all about print copy from the 60s and 70s, which you may not think is relevant, but it's good stuff. By the time I got to page 150, I went from hating copywriting to really thinking it was a powerful tool. So I rewrote one of my descriptions. Immediately, it went from 1 in 30 to 1 in 10. And I know some of you are math folks. But if you've got a choice of paying for 30 clicks to get your conversion or paying for 10, 10 is more fun. It's way more fun. And so I rewrote 5 more of my descriptions. I have, at the time, 11 books. And so I'm also a procrastinator. I didn't get around to the others for a while. But when I finally did, and I had them all up, and I was looking at the description, they were all converting around 1 in 10 to 1 in 12. I went back, looked at my data, and figured out how much money I'd left on the table based on the clicks I had for the previous year. If I'd done it 12 months earlier, I would have been $50,000 richer. Now, don't cry for me, Argentina, because I'm an optimist. I didn't immediately say, oh, woe is me, I could have had $50,000. I said, thank God I didn't wait 5 more years. And so, at that point, because I'm a big fan of hubris, I assumed that after 5 descriptions, I was probably one of the best copywriters who've ever lived. And I didn't revisit the copywriting for some time. And then in February 24th of 2017, when I started my Mastering Amazon Ads beta group on Facebook, people started asking for help. And that was one of the chapters I'd written. So we were talking a lot about it, and they would reach out to me, and we would rewrite their descriptions. And I did this for maybe 6 months. And I I won't say her name, but I was working on a woman's description, and we got done. She said, wow, that is really good. And I said to her, wow, you're right. It was really good. And then I went back and rewrote my descriptions again. And they got better. Well, some of them, because again, I just don't care that much about my books. But the thing is, I actually use my books for research more than anything. So if they're at 0 sales, that's fine. That means I have a baseline and I can do that. But I do manage about 1,000 ads for 2 clients I have. And so I spend a lot of time, and I use my books as guinea pigs to try to get better at AMS for them. Anyway, I redid the descriptions. And then in January of this year, I redid my Henry Wood Detective Agency description again. And in that description, I don't mention what goes on in the book. I have gotten so far from a synopsis, I write hooks and I hint at what might happen rather than tell people what will happen. And that description that was 1 in 10 is now 1 in 8. And that's a big deal. I've had over 600,000 clicks across all my books. And that little gap, that's just money for the rest of my life. And so copywriting for an ad is less important. For descriptions, you have to have good descriptions. You're costing yourself money. That's the same with organic traffic. If you're sending out emails to your reader group, better copywriting will get better results. For the ads themselves, it's not worth stressing about. Write the copy the best that you can. Try something different. Most people click on the ad because of the cover. I've researched memory a lot. That's something I'm interested in. And I would wager that less than 1 in 1,000 people, by the time they get done reading your description, will be able to say what the copy was in the ad. That's not what's selling the book. Don't think your copy is important, that you need to have good copy to sell the book. You want to try because it makes you better at copywriting. Sometimes you get a piece of copy that does work, but it's rare. I've had one bit of copy. I have a satire. It's snarky. The title is Underwood, Scotch, and Rye. One night after having written about 20 ads, I was tired. I wanted to write one more. And the copy was more snark than a snarkopotamus in Snarktown on a snarking spree. Has anyone found Snarktown on a map? Doesn't actually exist. The snarking spree is not a real thing, but for a month, that book's ROI was between 800 and 1,000%. It found the exact right readers, they bought the book, and over that month period, all of the reviews were 5 stars except one, and so it was about a 4.9 average for that period of time on a book that is 4.4. So, I got lightning in a bottle. And since then, I've tried different variations, and I've never been able to duplicate it, but I don't worry about it because ad copy isn't what matters. It's the description. So do your best. Always try to write good ad copy. It'll make you better at the skill, but don't lose sleep over it. Don't spend time asking for people's opinion about it. If you're spending more than 3 minutes on an ad, that's not a good use of your time. We've got books to write. Now, so I sort of covered the description. I talked about an optimized one is going to run 1 in 8 to 1 in 10. If it's just like 3 giant blocks of text, people don't have time. We've been trained by Facebook. Now, ironically, the people looking for a book want nothing more than to have quiet and spend 2 hours reading, but they can't be bothered to read a first line that's more than 6 words. And I've tested this. So I believe in a certain structure with short hooks and get them engaged because your goal is just to get them all the way to the end of the description. Have any of you read my posts in the 20 Books to 50K group? Yeah. Okay. I do that because it's fun, but I do it because of the copywriting. I'm practicing copywriting. One of my posts, I typically get between 500 and 750 likes or loves. One of them had 750 likes, 240 or 50 comments. It was 1,500 words long on a Facebook post. Prior to using copywriting on Facebook, in that group, Typically, I would get 50 likes. It absolutely works. So if you use that skill, it can change your life. I got an email last week from a woman who is new to being an author. She has a couple books out. She's not making enough money to do it full time, and she was unemployed. And she used copywriting in her letter from the stuff I taught her in my course, and she got the job. 2 months ago, a guy that lives in my building, who's a photographer, that had gone after this photography gig for one of the casino franchises, and he had not gotten it before, and he wanted to go for it again. I rewrote his biography, his CV, whatever. He got that gig. It was a $100,000 job, and he couldn't get it just doing it the way everybody else did. So learn some copywriting. It's pretty good. Are you convinced? I'm not sure that he's convinced. His nod didn't really tell me he was convinced, but maybe. I may have to work on you later. Let me go to another slide, because I think I've beaten this one to death. Oh, I went two. There we go. Okay, what to know, read through. These are things that most of you may not have done the math on, but they're incredibly important to running your business. If you were running any other business, a tire store, you would understand your inventory. You would know how long your inventory lasts. Read through is sort of like that. The lifetime value of generating a conversion. Those of you that have figured out read through probably did it for your sales. It's a different number for your KU page reads. It's worth knowing those numbers, because if you know the value of getting a person into your funnel, you can then, and you know your description's conversion rate, then you know the most you can pay per bid and be profitable. And let's say that right now you've got 3 books, you do the math on that, and you realize that in the current state, the bids are too high, you can't be profitable. You can then turn your attention to, if your description is 1 in 20, try to get it down to 1 in 10, and then that changes that. So you can make informed business decisions about how to improve your books. Or maybe your time is best spent writing the 4th book, because that will change that number. Same with KU. These are all things that you should understand. And then if you make a change, let's say that you've been selling your first book at 99 cents, and you decide to sell it at $4.99. What does that do to read through? What does that do to conversions on KU? I can tell you it improves conversions on KU. It will reduce conversions on sales, but you can do the math. You can find out, if I have fewer sales at where I'm making 35 cents, is it by 10 times? And so if you're having 10, you only need 1 sale to break even. But again, I hate to use the math, you still need to then figure out what's the value of that 1 sale versus with all the read-through. Because Craig Martell has a lot of books. His answer, because of his read-through value, whether he's selling it at 99 cents or $4.99, I cannot imagine a scenario where if I did the math on his series, that a higher price would make him more money in the long run because of the length of his series. So there are many things to think about. And again, I'm dumping a lot on you here, but you can reach out to me later if you have questions. Distribution. This is something people don't think about. I love watching this number. Has the sales versus KU download ratio changed? Nobody watches it. Well, that's not true. The K-Lytics guy watches it. I watch that number, and I've watched that number for a couple years. And this time last year, 50% of the conversions were sales, 50% were KU downloads. Knowing that, knowing what the lifetime value is through the KU funnel, through the sales funnel, I can do some math. Today, on the one client who we're spending about $400 a day on AMS ads, his distribution in a very popular genre, 30% are sales, 70% are KU. So when I'm doing the math, I have to understand it is now more important to watch the KU lifetime value than the sales value. And as people continue, the most avid readers continue to move to the Netflix of books, knowing that is important for your decisions. I have been wide twice. I've been exclusive 3 times. You can always go back and forth, but you want to do it, make an informed decision. And so the point there is it's not a hard thing to figure out. Take the 90-day download. The 90-day download, you just, how many books did you sell? 150 sales. How many KU page reads? You take the KU page reads, divided by your KENPC number, which is the number of pages you get credit for if somebody reads your book in its entirety, and then you round up to the nearest whole number because you can't have half of a person download a book, add them together, and then you can divide by one of them, and now you have a distribution. It's fairly easy math. Again, I did that quickly, but if you didn't understand, just come up and ask me. I will repeat that for each of you if need be. But once you understand that, it paints a different picture. And again, with the data analysis and all the stuff that I talk about, for most people who have not ever done this sort of stuff, they are emotionally, psychologically, where I was with writing descriptions during that 60 days of terror where I just didn't want to do it. But once you have the number, I mean, it's not even 5th grade math. It's pretty basic stuff. Once you have it, you're like, you know what? It didn't kill me. There are no open sores. So I survived the math. The last thing I want to talk about is, for those of you that have run AMS ads, you probably noticed that since July 15th of last year, it's become a bit more competitive. Apparently there was a book that came out. A few people bought it. A lot more people got into AMS ads, so I'm partly responsible. The price had gone up because more of you are doing ads. That's fine. But what has changed in the last month, 5 weeks? There's a new option. Should you choose the 50% bid increase option? No, don't do it. Oh, for the love of God, please don't do it. The key to making this work is finding out the sweet spot for your ads. And let's say that you have bid 30 cents on your ads, and they're not turning on. You're not getting the volume of impressions that you would want. The next thing to test is 32 cents. It's not 45 cents. You may be impatient, but I had a woman last year who, in the span of 4 weeks, and she was spending over $10,000 a month on AMS ads, in a span of 4 weeks, we shaved 20 cents per click off of her bid because she just bid high and never looked at it. She still spent $10,000 a month, but she was getting 40% more clicks for the same amount she was spending. So her margin, she just made a lot more money. So just don't do that. It will take longer to find that sweet spot. You'll need to try 32 cents, then try 34 cents. And you have to give them a couple weeks to find out if they're just going to do nothing. But it's worth the time. And once you find the sweet spot, in 2 or 3 months, you might want to try 2 cents lower. And you constantly are checking for that because this is real money you're spending to get these sales. And just jumping in and taking the bid and increasing it by 50% is really upsetting to me. So I'm asking as a personal favor, don't do that. Look for your sweet spot. And, I did miss one little thing here. Read through, does it vary by venue? Yes. If you do AMS through the UK site, totally different readership. They have different KU read through, they have different sales read through. The distribution is different as well. So all of these things, in one client instance, he has multiple series, and one of the series clearly, once we looked at this data, did better in the UK, and the other two do better in the US, and so we shifted where we were putting the weight of our ad money. That's a little more complex, but again, like I say, ask me if you don't understand something. Now, I've still got a little time left, and I want to just give a little teaser, if I may. this next thing, you've probably not heard of bookfido.com, but Dave Chesson, KDP Rocket, and I have started a software company, and we have full-time programmers that are working on this. We are to the point where we've successfully gotten pretend data to come through, and we are on the cusp of needing beta testers for BookFido. Our goal is to have a platform where you can go for your data from all of the platforms. If you're wide, it will have all of that. It'll factor in the page reads, which all the other competitors do that as well. But the difference between some of the other competitors and Dave and I is we're actual authors. So we're going to get up something basic and then continue to add reporting. The idea is you will learn this, and then maybe one day a report with a moving average will show up. But by that point, you won't be terrified of it. And I will still, it's my evil plan to make you all love data. And so the hope is, and it's going to be competitively priced, probably less than some of our competitors. But right now, we're to the point where we need some people who want to test their data. And so if you go to bookfido.com and are interested in this platform and our super cute logo, then, isn't it? See, he likes it. That makes me happy. Sign up. And I don't know exactly when we'll start rolling people in, but we're very close, and I'm pretty excited about it. One more thing. Last year, who sat through my drivel last year? Anybody? Oh, okay. So y'all know that at the end of the presentation, I think it was maybe Ira who pointed out afterwards that I did a really good job of talking up my course. And then I said thank you, and I left. I didn't tell anybody how to find it. It was not good copywriting. It was bad copywriting. And so I have a Mastering Amazon Ads course. I'm going to click this button here. And I'm running a 30% off sale. Ironically, within all of the lectures, we don't really talk about Amazon Ads much. It's mostly focused on copywriting, getting that description optimized, learning the analysis you need, because running ads is easy. I mean, if you've run an ad before, the actual putting in the ad isn't that hard. I consider my book to be a prerequisite. If people have read the book, they know how to run ads. So I don't teach any of that stuff. But I teach a lot of math phobes how to understand the very basic tools that you need to understand. So we focus on analysis, we focus on copywriting, and in February of this year, I did research into back matter, and I have a little different theory on back matter. My book, Henry Wood Detective Agency, which is a period piece, takes place in 1955, and has, and I do not recommend this, a time travel closet in it. It's not science fiction. I wrote the first chapter as a blog post. I never intended to write chapter 2. All I really wanted to do was tell my readers, who were mostly woodworkers, on my woodworking blog, that I bought the Bosch 1 1/4 horsepower router that I've been going on and on about for 3 weeks. And that's all the woodworking I'd done that day was buy the router. I didn't just want to say I bought the router. So I wrote the first chapter of a noir mystery. Our protagonist, Henry Wood, because they're woodworkers, and I'm clever. And I wanted to put it in 1955 because one of my favorite readers was my dad, or is my dad. He's not past tense. So I put it in 1955. And Dad, he's a great guy. When the Dodgers left Brooklyn and moved to LA, he had an issue with it. He still has an issue with it. So I put Henry in Brooklyn in 1955, the only year they won the World Series. So that was for Dad. And I put this time travel closet in there. Because of the time travel closet, and this is a valuable point about assumptions, for 5 years, my read-through, and Craig talked about good read-through, mine was not good read-through, 42 to 43%. It stayed in that range and didn't deviate from it for 5 years. And I assumed it was because the time travel closet was pretty darn stupid. I mean, I just wanted to get the router to 1955. And I barely mention it in most of the books. There's always something in there about the closet, a clue, or something kind of worthless. It's just a MacGuffin. But then in February, said, you know, what if I'm wrong? So I redid my back matter, did it a totally different way. And I'm not going to tell you how, because that's in the course. You don't get this one for free. It's been 60% ever since. So I'm right up to the bottom of sort of the Craig Martell threshold, which makes me very proud. And we talk a lot about that. And the last bit, I guess, to try to sell the course is I pretty much make myself available to anyone. If you've got questions, if you get enthused but you need to talk, I will Skype with you. I will Facebook chat with you. And so, you know, it's 30% off till Thursday. Maybe some of you want to learn more of this. But, you know, if I have time, it's green. So I've got, is that how much I have left? 10? I'd like to ask if there's any questions at this juncture. Oh, and he has a question. You've become a really good audience member. Oh, microphone. Oh, should I give him this? No.
Over there.
Oh, there's one in the house. See how this works? I haven't been paying attention.
So I have not released a book yet. At what point before my first release should I start running ads?
That's a great question, and one of the things that I tested during I created this Facebook group, and the rules for the group are you have to buy the Mastering Amazon Ads book. Before it was out, the rules were you can read it as I'm writing it and get this information ahead of time, but when it launches, you have to buy the book. And people agreed, they were fine with that. That's $10. And so one of the things I tested, because I had this group of people that would buy on command, I tested pre-order. So I put the book up, and I'm not going to go, I could talk for another 10 minutes about that test. But unless you have a reason for pre-order, like you're rapid releasing, that's a great reason, I didn't find value in the pre-order. If you can get 10,000 pre-orders and launch and land on the USA Today list, you know, that's a great reason too. But the conversion rate on the ads that I tested, because I was testing a science fiction novel and Mastering Amazon Ads, was abysmal. So it's a really expensive thing to do. I don't see value in it, again, unless it's a situation where if you're a rapid release guy or gal, that might be a good scenario. I haven't tested it. It might not be, but I wouldn't run ads ahead of time. And honestly, if this is your first book, because in chapter 5 of my book, for those who have read it, I write at length about setting expectations. And so I don't know that I would run ads on your first book. I think going back to time management and talking about that, I think I would focus on getting the book out, telling your friends, posting it on Facebook and so forth. But if you've already got some ideas for the next book, I'd spend my time doing that, because in this environment and for the next 2 months, because the traditional publisher starts spending money between now and Christmas, it may get more expensive before it gets less expensive. I just focus on the next book before spending a lot on advertising. Set your expectations that this book will sell, but maybe not for a while. My best ever run of ranking is Underwood Scotch and Rye was 520 to 980 for a period of 10 days, 2 years after the launch. And so it is always possible to drive the sales. It's just there's not another book for them to read through, so you have less margin. Does that make sense? Okay, well done. Oh, and you broke the mic. Ah, well done. And then we over here.
How do AMS ads interact with audiobooks? Do they at all?
I don't believe. The thing is, you're running an ad, it takes you to your description page, where a person could choose to click on the audiobook. And I definitely, when I'm running high volume, where I'm getting, if I have a book and I'm getting 500 clicks in a day on it, I will see audio sales go up. But I've not figured out a way to specifically drive them to the audiobook. And I haven't really spent any time on it. So I'm going to have to say, I don't know of a way, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You're a lot of clever people here. You may be the person that figures it out. And then you can sell a course, which would be awesome. Paperbacks, they're not, I sell more paperbacks than I do audiobooks because of that, which I have a hypothesis that I haven't tested, so this is not a recommendation, it's just an idea I'm going to throw out. You can think about it. You can get a vendor account, and I understand it's a little bit of a challenge, and so I thought, how would I get a vendor account? Because if you're just an author, they turn you down a lot of the time. But if you want an Amazon Advantage account, you want to sell merchandise, you could go to one of those sites and create a clever t-shirt, like more snark than a snarkopotamus, and then sell that on Amazon. And the point is not to sell a lot of snarkopotamus t-shirts, although I can tell some of you would like a snarkopotamus t-shirt. This woman right here, she wants one. That'll be available next week. The point is, you get the account, and then you can advertise your print books. So for authors that do children's books, those often vastly skew to print more than the ebooks. That might be an avenue to look at. I don't know that it'll work. Right now it's a hypothesis. But if some of you try that, reach out to me on Facebook. I would love to help you analyze it, look at the data. Maybe it'll be in next year's presentation. I don't know. But it was a good question. Yeah, yes.
I've only done a few ads. I'm just getting started in it.
Good for you.
I'm wondering about the suggested price.
Yeah, that's
certain things.
That's
Do
tough.
we ignore that? Do we mess with it?
I ignore it. But again, a lot of people, I think, their intuition leads them astray on the bids. So we know that over the next 2 months, it's going to be competitive. And you put in 1,000 keywords, and you see the suggestions on some of them are 83 cents. Craig Martell can advertise at 83 cents. He's got close to 1,000 books in his series. Most of us can't. And so you have to think, maybe it's worth looking at the suggestions, not taking the J.K. Rowling at 83 cents, but taking Bob Smith at 7 cents, creating a sub-list. I've actually just started testing this. I don't really have any data to share. It's, again, more of a theory at this point. But taking a bunch of the ones that are low traffic, you don't get that many clicks. It's not going to make you a ton of money, but it might be a nice little ad. And what if it got 15 sales a month? And you could look, and if you have lots of keywords, 10,000 keywords, you might be able to get 2 or 3 of those nice little ads that your mindset may be between now and the end of the holidays that I'm just going to sit back and not do much with AMS. But what if those nice little ads could generate pace and downloads and sales for you? So that's what I would look into. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. Yes.
Have you seen any value in using AMS ads for books down series, or would you rather just say, hey, book one, book one, book one?
For beginners, book one, book one, book one. But you can also have a box set. So book one and box set. And if you got a longer series, box set, but not box set 2. That being said, I got excited there. That being said, for the client where I'm managing 1,000 ads, we do stuff downline successfully, and people will absolutely go back to the first one. And Craig talked about this morning, that the best way to sell book 1 is to sell book 2, and that does happen. So if you're new to this, don't go run 20 ads on each of your 7 books because you don't even know how to really manage it. But if you've been doing it for a while, absolutely give it a try. And an interesting thing, that this I don't really talk about anywhere, it's not hugely important, but it's worth noting, the first time you run a keyword ad for a book, you'll get a lot of impressions. Then you'll run that ad again after it's sort of died down. Maybe you get 500,000 in 5 days, and it'll die down to 1,800 a day. And so you kill it, and then you write new copy and run a new one. The expectation is, oh, that'll be great. I'll get enough. That first ad is like a golden ticket. It always outperforms the subsequent ads. I imagine it's because Amazon likes there to be different ads. But that's just something to be aware of. That as you're testing it, you're really going to enjoy the first ads. And well, I should say, it's the first ad that starts working. If you're doing this and you're starting at 20 cents, maybe that's not high enough bid to work. But if it does work, it'll be a ton, and the next one won't be as good. So I hope that helps.
Thanks.
And we've got a minute 27. There we go.
Hi there. Thinking about categories, because they're so important, do you recommend using AMS ads to sort of test? Because like I have a new series, and I believe it spans several genres, and so I'm trying to figure out the best category.
I absolutely do, and I think that's a great idea. I could probably talk for another 10 minutes on that, which I don't have. So I will just say, yes, you should absolutely test it. And again, try to take it slow. And so, oh, there's another, we're going to get one more woman in here. Yes.
I have a question about impressions. Are they still valuable? If all I'm getting is impressions and not clicks?
Oh, I would love an ad to get 1 million impressions a day with 0 clicks. Again, as I mentioned, I worked at Geico, and exposure is important. People are scrolling by and they're seeing that book over and over. I bought Wool after having seen it 6 times. And I loved the book, but it took that many times. So yes, you've got an ad getting a ton of impressions. If it's not getting clicks, it costs you nothing. It's awesome.
Exactly.
So he's coming up here. So I'm going to say thank you. I hope some of you will be interested in my course. You've been awesome. Even you have been awesome.